Alain heard film crew blocked Family Bistro 3 days. What he did next was pure heart. This is the incredible true story of how one moment of heartfelt compassion and genuine human connection transformed a devastating business crisis into one of the most beautiful demonstrations of community support and cultural appreciation in entertainment history, proving that true success means nothing unless it's used to help others who are struggling, and that sometimes the most meaningful acts of kindness come from recognizing that behind every small business is a family whose dreams, heritage, and daily survival depend on the respect and consideration of those who have the power to help or harm their livelihood. September 10, 1974. The narrow cobblestone streets of Montmartre were bustling with their usual mixture of tourists, local artists, and longtime residents who gave this historic quarter of Paris its distinctive character and timeless charm. The area around the Sacré-Cœur Basilica had always been a magnet for creative spirits and cultural enthusiasts, creating a unique atmosphere that blended artistic tradition with the everyday rhythms of neighborhood life. In the heart of this vibrant community stood Le Petit Moulin, a small family bistro that had been serving the Montmartre community for nearly 30 years. The restaurant occupied a corner building on a narrow street that connected the main tourist areas with the residential neighborhoods where local artists, writers, and working families made their homes. Le Petit Moulin was far more than just a dining establishment. It was the social heart of its immediate neighborhood, a place where local workers gathered for morning coffee and croissants, where struggling artists could afford a warm meal and friendly conversation, and where longtime residents maintained the daily connections that made Montmartre feel like a small village rather than part of a massive international city. The bistro's owners were Émile and Marie Dubois, a couple in their late 50s who had invested their entire adult lives in creating something special within their community. Émile, 58, had grown up in Montmartre and had worked in various restaurants throughout the quarter before finally saving enough money to lease the small corner space that became Le Petit Moulin. Marie, 52, had contributed her grandmother's traditional recipes and her own talent for creating the kind of warm, welcoming atmosphere that made customers feel like family rather than strangers paying for a service. Together, they had built a business that reflected their values of community, tradition, and genuine care for the people they served. The restaurant's modest size, only 12 tables and a small bar area, meant that every customer mattered both financially and personally. The Dubois family knew most of their regular patrons by name, remembered their preferences, and often extended credit to struggling artists or provided free meals to elderly neighbors who were having difficulty making ends meet. Into this close-knit community environment came the massive disruption of a major film production. Alain Delon's latest project, L'Homme de Paris, was an ambitious urban drama that required extensive location shooting throughout the historic neighborhoods of Montmartre, including several complex street scenes that demanded significant logistical coordination and equipment deployment. The film's production team, led by director Jacques Moreau and production manager Philippe Laurent, had obtained all the necessary permits for filming in the area and had made arrangements for temporary street closures and parking restrictions that would allow them to complete their scheduled shooting days. However, the reality of executing complex film production in narrow, historic streets proved to be far more disruptive to local businesses and residents than the planning process had anticipated. The equipment trucks, camera rigs, lighting systems, and crowd control barriers required for professional filming created obstacles and access problems that the production team had not fully considered during their preparation. On the morning of September 10th,
The film crew arrived early to begin setting up for a crucial sequence that required complete control over the street where Le Petit Moulin was located. The scene involved a dramatic foot chase through the narrow cobblestone streets, requiring multiple camera angles, extensive lighting, and careful coordination between the actors and stunt performers. To achieve the visual quality and continuity that the scene required, the production team made the decision to block all vehicle and pedestrian traffic on the street for the duration of filming, which was initially scheduled to last from early morning until late afternoon. Large equipment trucks were positioned at both ends of the street, creating effective barriers that prevented anyone from accessing the businesses located along that particular block. Security personnel were stationed to ensure that no unauthorized individuals could enter the filming area and potentially interfere with the complex choreography of the chase sequence. What the production team failed to adequately consider was the devastating impact that complete street closure would have on the small businesses that depended on daily customer traffic for their survival and livelihood. Le Petit Moulin, like most neighborhood bistros, operated on very thin profit margins and relied heavily on consistent daily revenue to cover rent, employee wages, and the constant expenses of food service operations. The restaurant's location on a narrow side street meant that customers needed to be able to walk directly to the entrance. Any barrier or obstruction that prevented easy access effectively eliminated the possibility of normal business operations. For 3 consecutive days, September 10th, 11th, and 12th, the film production's equipment and security barriers made it impossible for customers to reach Le Petit Moulin. The restaurant's regular patrons, unable to navigate the blocked street and unwilling to argue with security personnel, simply found other places to eat and drink, assuming they could return to their favorite bistro once the filming was completed. But for Émile and Marie Dubois, those 3 days represented a financial catastrophe that threatened everything they had worked to build over 30 decades of dedicated service to their community. The timing of the business interruption made the situation even more devastating. September was traditionally one of Le Petit Moulin's busiest months, as the return of pleasant fall weather brought increased tourist activity to Montmartre, while local residents resumed their regular dining routines after the August vacation period. The lost revenue from 3 complete days of closure, combined with the ongoing expenses of rent, staff wages, and food inventory that spoiled without customers to serve, created a financial crisis that the small family business was not equipped to handle. Émile, a proud man who had never asked anyone for help during 30 years of business operation, found himself facing the possibility that he might have to close Le Petit Moulin permanently if he couldn't find a way to recover from the unexpected financial blow. It was during this desperate situation that Émile made a decision that would change his family's life and create one of the most touching examples of human compassion in entertainment industry history. Late on the evening of September 12th, after the film crew had finally completed their shooting and removed their equipment from the street, Émile sat down at one of his restaurant's empty tables and wrote a heartfelt letter to Alain Delon. The letter, written in Émile's careful handwriting on Le Petit Moulin letterhead, explained the situation with dignity and honesty rather than anger or blame. Émile described how the 3-day closure had affected his family's business and asked if there might be any possibility of assistance or compensation that could help them recover from the unexpected financial hardship.
Monsieur Delon, the letter began, I write to you not with complaint, but with hope that you might understand what your film production has meant to our small family business. My wife Marie and I have operated Le Petit Moulin for nearly 30 years, serving our Montmartre community with pride and dedication. Émile went on to explain the specific financial impact of the 3-day closure and the broader significance of the bistro within the local community. emphasizing how many of their regular customers were struggling artists, elderly residents, and working families who depended on Le Petit Moulin not just for food, but for the social connection and community support that the restaurant provided. "We do not ask for charity," Émile's letter continued, "but we hope that you might understand that behind every small business is a family whose dreams and daily survival depend on the kindness and consideration of those who have the power to help or to harm." The letter concluded with Émile's expression of hope that the situation might be resolved in a way that would allow Le Petit Moulin to continue serving the Montmartre community that had supported the restaurant for 3 decades. Émile personally delivered the letter to Alain's production office the following morning, not knowing if it would even be read by anyone in a position to help, but desperate enough to try anything that might save his family's business and livelihood. What happened when Alain received and read Émile's letter would demonstrate why some acts of compassion become legendary examples of human decency and community responsibility. Alain was deeply moved by both the dignity of Émile's letter and the realization that his film production had caused genuine hardship for a family who had devoted their lives to serving their community. Rather than delegating the response to his production staff or legal team, Alain decided to address the situation personally and immediately. The next morning, September 14th, Alain arrived unannounced at Le Petit Moulin during the breakfast service. The restaurant was noticeably quiet, with many fewer customers than usual, as word of the closure had disrupted the established routines of regular patrons. Émile, who was serving coffee to one of the few customers present, looked up to see one of France's most famous actors standing in his restaurant's modest entrance. For a moment, he was too surprised to speak, uncertain whether Alain's presence was related to his letter or simply a coincidence. Alain approached Émile directly and said, "Monsieur Dubois, I received your letter, and I've come to apologize personally for what my production has done to your business. But more importantly, I want to discuss how we can make this right." The conversation that followed would create one of the most beautiful examples of mutual respect and genuine human connection between people from very different worlds who shared fundamental values about community, family, and the importance of treating others with dignity and consideration. Alain spent over an hour listening to Émile and Marie describe not just the financial impact of the 3-day closure, but the broader meaning of Le Petit Moulin within the Montmartre community, and their fears about whether they could continue operating after such an unexpected financial setback. What Alain did next went far beyond simple compensation or standard business resolution. It was an extraordinary demonstration of pure heart and genuine care for a family he had just met, but whose dedication and service he immediately recognized and respected. First, Alain provided immediate financial assistance that not only covered the lost revenue from the 3-day closure, but included additional support to help the restaurant recover its momentum and rebuild customer traffic. But his response to the Dubois family's situation went much deeper than monetary compensation. Alain began bringing colleagues, friends, and industry contacts to dine at Le Petit Moulin, introducing the restaurant to a new clientele while ensuring that his recommendations emphasized the quality of the food and the warmth of the family-run establishment rather than simply his own celebrity endorsement. More significantly, Alain arranged for Le Petit Moulin to be featured in several entertainment industry publications, with articles that highlighted the restaurant's role in Montmartre's cultural community and the Dubois family's 3 decades of dedicated service to local artists, residents, and visitors.
Perhaps most meaningfully, Alain established a genuine personal relationship with Émile and Marie, becoming not just a customer, but a friend who understood and appreciated the values and commitment that had made Le Petit Moulin an essential part of its community. For years afterward, Alain would stop by the restaurant when he was in Montmartre, often bringing guests who appreciated authentic French bistro culture and understood the importance of supporting family-owned businesses that preserved traditional hospitality and community connection.
The relationship between Alain and the Dubois family became a model for how successful individuals could use their influence and resources to support small businesses and local communities without condescension or superficial charity, but through genuine respect and long-term commitment. Le Petit Moulin not only survived the crisis created by the film production, but eventually became more successful than it had ever been, attracting new customers who had learned about the restaurant through Alain's thoughtful promotion while maintaining its essential character as a neighborhood gathering place. The Montmartre Pure Heart story became legendary within both the entertainment industry and the small business community as an example of how unexpected crises could be transformed into opportunities for genuine human connection and community support. If this incredible story of compassion transforming crisis has touched your heart, make sure to subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to understand that true success means using whatever influence and resources we have to help others who are struggling. Tell us in the comments about times when you've seen small acts of kindness create big changes in people's lives, because sometimes the most important demonstrations of character come from recognizing that behind every business challenge is a human story of dreams, dedication, and the daily courage required to serve others with dignity and hope. The long-term impact of what became known as the Montmartre Pure Heart story extended far beyond the immediate resolution of the Dubois family's financial crisis, creating ripple effects throughout the local community and influencing how the French entertainment industry approached relationships with small businesses affected by film productions. Within weeks of Alain's intervention, other Montmartre business owners began sharing their own stories about the challenges of operating small enterprises in an area that was frequently used for film and television production. The attention brought to Le Petit Moulin's situation had highlighted broader issues about how location filming affected neighborhood businesses and local residents. The positive outcome of the Dubois situation encouraged local business associations to develop better communication protocols with production companies, ensuring that future filming projects would include more comprehensive planning for minimizing disruptions to established businesses and community routines. Émile and Marie's experience also demonstrated to other small business owners that respectful, dignified communication could be effective in addressing problems with larger organizations. The careful, honest tone of Émile's original letter became a model for how community members could advocate for themselves while maintaining their integrity and self-respect. For the Montmartre artistic community, Alain's response to the Bistro situation reinforced the importance of successful artists maintaining connections with and responsibility for the local communities that provided settings and inspiration for their work. Many established artists and entertainers began following Alain's example by actively supporting neighborhood businesses and cultural institutions. The relationship between Alain and Le Petit Moulin also influenced how celebrity endorsements and business promotion could be conducted authentically and meaningfully. Rather than superficial promotional appearances, Alain's ongoing relationship with the restaurant demonstrated how public figures could support small businesses through genuine appreciation and long-term commitment.
The increased visibility that Le Petit Moulin received through Alain's thoughtful promotion attracted food critics and cultural journalists who recognized the restaurant as representative of authentic Montmartre bistro culture. The resulting media attention brought new customers while preserving the intimate neighborhood atmosphere that made the establishment special. Perhaps most importantly, the Dubois family's story became an inspiration for other small business owners facing unexpected challenges, demonstrating that dignity, honest communication, and community support could overcome seemingly insurmountable difficulties and create opportunities for growth and renewal. Years later, when business schools and hospitality programs discussed successful community business relationships, Le Petit Moulin's story was frequently cited as an example of how individual compassion and corporate responsibility could work together to strengthen local communities while building lasting relationships based on mutual respect and shared values. The pure heart that Alain demonstrated through his response to the bistro crisis became a lasting example of how success and influence could be used not for personal benefit, but for community support, proving that the most meaningful achievements often come from recognizing and responding to the needs of others with generosity, respect, and genuine care.